What's up, you freaking geniuses? So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to simplify natural logs, all right? So these problems in white are all the examples we're going to cover. They're fairly simple and straightforward once you understand the basic rules, all right? And those basic rules, I have them written right here. So there's 4 basic rules that we need to know when evaluating logs, natural logs. So first of all, the natural log of 1 is equal to 0, right? Easy enough to remember. Now, the second rule is that the natural log of e is equal to 1. Okay, now, the next one is that the natural log of e raised to some exponent is equal to simply that exponent, all right? Similarly, e raised to the natural log of some number is equal to simply that number. All right, so if you understand these 4 rules, you're going to be able to get through these problems fairly easily. So let's start with this first example on the top left. So we have the natural log of e raised to the 5th power. Okay, so this is a case of basically this third rule, right? The natural log of e raised to some exponent is equal to simply that exponent, right? So here, the natural log of e raised to the 5th is equal to simply 5, right? Not too bad, right? Now here we have the natural log of 1 over e squared. So we don't like fractions, right? So is there a way that we can rewrite this in order to get rid of this fraction? Well, there is. So if you ever have a term that has an exponent on it and you want to move it to the other side, so here we want to take this term right here in the denominator and move it to the numerator. Okay, so we can do that. All we have to do is change the sign on the exponent. So here, this is going to be equal to, it's the same thing as, well, what do we have on top right now? It's just a 1, right? So 1 times, and then this thing, we're going to move it to the numerator and write it as e raised to the negative 2. And then anything times 1 is just itself, right? So then this is equal to simply e raised to the negative 2, all right? So then here, we can rewrite this problem a little bit. We can write it as the natural log of e raised to the negative 2. And now you can see it's basically the same case as this first problem, right? So then here, this is going to be equal to just the exponent, which is negative 2. All right, now for this next one, we have e raised to the natural log of 7. So this would be the same rule as rule number 4, right? So e raised to the natural log of some number is equal to just that number. So e raised to the natural log of 7 is just 7. Okay, so far so good, right? So now let's do this one right here. So this is the natural log of 1 over 3. All right, so remember the natural log of 1, that's our first rule, it's just equal to 0. So this is simply equal to 0 over 3. And 0 divided by any number that's not 0 is simply equal to 0. All right, nice. Now we have this one right here. So we have 2 times the natural log of e. Well, remember, the natural log of e, we know what that's equal to, right? It's simply equal to 1. So this is the exact same thing as 2 times 1, which of course is equal to 2. Okay, now for this next one, we have 3/4 times the natural log of e times 8. All right, so remember, just like we just learned, the natural log of e is simply equal to 1, right? So this thing is equal to simply 1. So here, we really have 3/4 times 1 times 8. Or we could simply write that as 3/4 times 8, right? Now here we can reduce this, right? 8 over 4 reduces down to 2 over 1. So then this is equal to 3 times 2 on top is 6. And on the bottom, we have just a 1. So this is equal to simply 6, all right? Now just a few more here. So here we have the natural log of e over pi raised to the negative 3rd power. All right, so what do we know? Well, we know the natural log of e, right? That's one of our rules. It's equal to 1. And then this pi raised to the negative 3rd power, well, like we said, we can move terms to the other side. We just have to flip the sign on the exponent. So this pi raised to the negative 3rd power is the same thing as if we move it to the top. So on top, we're going to have this 1, right? So 1 times pi raised to the positive 3rd power. And again, anything times 1 is just itself. So then this is equal to simply pi raised to the 3rd power. Okay, just a couple more here. So now we have the natural log of e raised to the natural log of e. All right, So this looks kind of confusing, but remember the natural log of e is simply equal to 1, right? So really, this is the same thing as 1 raised to the first power, which is equal to simply 1, all right? You didn't trick us. All right, now what about this last one? Here we have e raised to the natural log of 1 over e. So again, we need to try and get rid of these fractions if possible. So just kind of like we got rid of these fractions, right? This 1 over e squared, right? This pi raised to the negative third. We can do the same thing over here. And I'll just write it over here. So 1 over e, this is basically the same thing as 1 over e raised to the first power, right? So if we want to move this term to the numerator, we can write that as, well, again, we have this 1 on top already, times e raised to the negative first power, which is going to be equal to simply e raised to the negative first power, all right? So here we can rewrite this a little bit. We can say e raised to the natural log of e raised to the negative first power. Now here you might recognize we have the natural log of e, right? So that's case number 3, right? The natural log of e raised to some exponent is equal to just that exponent. So then here, this is going to be equal to e raised to the negative first power. Okay, now in order to simplify this negative power, we can basically just write it in a fraction again, all right? So then this is going to be equal to, we're just going to put 1 in the numerator, always, and then this thing, you basically just throw it back in the denominator, but again, we have to change the sign on the exponent. So this would be e raised to the positive first power, or simply 1 over e. Boom. So if you found the video helpful, make sure to leave a thumbs up down below, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments section below.